Hey guys, it says we're live. We are going to be trying something new. I'm sitting here with a familiar face to the Free Mama in the Free Mama community. This is the amazing Kathryn Jones. And what we're going to do today is record the next episode of Free Mama Radio live and see how this goes. Are we excited?
Yes.
You're my guinea pig. So we're going to see if people, we're here, we're good. And we're going to see as people start popping on. All right. Okay. Hey, mamas, welcome back to another episode of Free Mama Radio. I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm here with one of my best friends and one of my best entrepreneur friends and newly engaged female, which is absolutely fantastic. We're so ecstatic for her in all of the ways. If you don't already know this wonderful person, this is Kathryn Jones. She is a 2 Comma Club award winner. She is a #1 best-selling author, certified internet marketer, ClickFunnels Dream Car Winner, an expert story strategist. She's shared the stage with all kinds of cool people, including me at Free Mama Retreat a couple of years ago and Free Mama Live last year. All kinds of amazing things we're going to talk about today. She is the owner of the internet world of design hacking. And this may or may not be what you think it is. But before we get into what design hacking is, Kathryn, let's back things up for a minute. How did you discover the internet and that you could make money on it? Where does this story begin?
Well, first of all, what a blessing, because it let us be friends. That's the first and foremost thing.
That is true. We met in a Facebook group, for people who don't know that.
Literal Facebook group. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
But I was in college. I started studying music. Then I switched my major to film. I had this notion that I couldn't be creative unless I studied something creative. And so I'm trying to figure this out, but I couldn't, I just didn't feel exactly right. And I left. I just decided to take a hiatus from school. I did a 1.5-year mission trip for my church in Los Angeles, saw the film world, became totally disenchanted with the film world, came back and I was like, well, crap, I've done 3.5 years of school, but I hate what I'm doing. I have a situation on my hands and I had no idea what I wanted to do other than the fact that I was one of those really annoying millennials that was just I just want to help people, those people. It's I perpetuated that stereotype and I want to apologize on behalf of my generation. It's my fault, right? So I come back, I'm just annoying and I just want to help people. I have no idea what that means. I have no idea what that looks like, but the only thing that I could settle on was that it might help if I had money. And so I was I got to figure out how to not be poor. That literally was it. I was I don't know how to help people. I'm poor, right? So I just start reading personal finance books and investing, but I'm obsessed with all the books, right? And I just start reading all of them, which eventually leads me to self-help, which eventually leads me to search these people's blogs, and I'm signing up for email lists, and then they're selling me stuff. And next thing I know, I'm buying courses online with credit cards that I should not have applied for on all the payment plans, because I'm my soul was just oh my gosh, this stuff is amazing. And it was kind of this perfect blend. It was the first medium I found where I was I can be creative in a really meaningful way. I can be creative in a really lucrative way. And this creativity doesn't just have to stop with the product alone, but in how I create and design my life. And so I was oh my gosh, if I'm just not an idiot about this, maybe I really could craft a life where I could take over the world and hopefully be a dope free mama one day. And I'm sure that there are a lot of avenues to do that, but for me, it was the first one I found. I lost my freaking mind, literally. I remember it was the summer of 2014. I had no friends. I went to work from 7 to 8 p.m. and then 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. I full-fledged just webinar hard the whole day. So I was I don't even know what this world, and I think everybody goes through this phase where it's I don't know what I'm doing on here, but I'm watching every webinar that's ever existed. And I have to do everything. So and that's kind of how it started. And I just started practicing being good at business. And it took me a long time before that ever was true. I remember the first course that I sold, yikes. It was basically social skills for college kids. Cause I'm I have nothing to sell. Right. And that's even questionable if I was qualified to do that. There I was selling this course. And eventually little by little, I just stopped sucking. Baby steps by baby steps until I remember the first time somebody offered to pay me $1,000. And it was the biggest lump of money that anybody ever paid me. I'm in college and I was just oh my God, And I'm like, I'm working for like $11 an hour or maybe 10, I can't remember. And I'm like $1,000. I was like, oh my gosh. And I didn't really know what he wanted me to do, but I was like, I'll figure it out. Yep, I'm on it. And yes, again, just step by step, learned how to not be bad at marketing until the tide changed, and actually kind of got quite good and learned the patterns for how to make that happen.
I love that. And you actually taught one of those things at the Free Mama Retreat. So a few years ago, our first live event, and I said, hey, Kathryn, like, come teach everybody about design hacking. And I think in the first like 30 seconds of your presentation, you're like, Lauren asked me to talk about this, beep, boop, bop, bop. And here's what I'm actually going to talk about, because that was the worst topic ever. And I'm not listening to anything she said. Here's what I actually want to say. And I do want to get to what you actually said, because you are the first person to come on here who is not a mother yet. We know we are free mama bound in life. But you have a really interesting story about motherhood and entrepreneurship and the whole kit and caboodle, which you then gave a presentation on at Funnel Hacking Live, which was awesome. So we're going to do that in a second. But you actually did talk about why your CF design school, which is like your first course that I'm aware of that really blew up, right? Like it really, I'm assuming that's the program that got you your 2 Comma Club award. Like that's freaking awesome. And you actually went through in your presentation at the Free Mama Retreat of like why that worked. Do you want to like lay some serious value on people and tell them like how you figured that out? Do you remember what you presented?
Yes, of course I remember what I presented.
That's good.
Yes, because I'm sure there are a lot of people listening right now that have either one, tried to launch some sort of product or information product and it flopped, or two, they're like, like the market's already saturated. Why would I add another thing on how to kill to Instagram? You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, I think that I think that there actually really is a formula. And the way that I teach the people inside of my programs is in this like web of saturated things, you kind of have to find like where the crack is. Like where's there a crack for you to infiltrate? I always like think of it like a sidewalk. You know, sometimes there's like that little plant that like grows out of the weird crack. And you have to find where that niche or that crack or that hole is in what you're doing, or else you're going to just pitch to deaf ears. So again, like we literally use this word crack, and it's kind of this joke that like we use this acronym crack inside
nice
the community, but here we are. And so it's like, you think I'm crack wherever you up. I always think of it like a sidewalk. But the first thing is like for this C, if you're trying to think like, oh, I want to do this course, the first thing you want to know is, are there communities already gathered? Like C, communities. Like, can you look online and find Facebook groups or Instagram followings that already have people that if you put it in front of them, they'd want your stuff? If you can find groups of people that are already gathered in communities, you're going to kill it. Case in point, right? Like CF Design School, I pitched it to your community that wanted online skills to make money online. I didn't have to put all the blood, sweat, and tears into making that community, but we were able to find a mutual agreement. So easy. So the first thing is community. The second thing it has to be like somewhat radical in the sense where it's like, if you are pitching an Instagram course that is the exact same as every other Instagram course, nobody will care. And so you have to find, there's a zone somewhere between crazy and boring, right? That's kind of like the metric. And about 3 steps back from crazy is this zone called prolific. And the definition of prolific means abundantly inventive, which is like, thing I've ever, it's amazing, huh? And so you essentially have to think, okay, how am I going to teach Instagram in a way that is different and provides a new opportunity for people that they hadn't seen before? You have to be a little bit radical, or you're going to fall to deaf ears on these communities. So you need communities, you need radical. And then the best part is that if these communities can have what we call an attractive character, so A, and so I think it's the difference between like huge, there are like huge Facebook groups of millions and millions of people of like women entrepreneurs, but there's no clear like head of the group, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the Free Mama community that has 30,000 plus people, and it's very clear like who owns the group, like Lauren owns the group. And the reason why that's so important is that all of a sudden, if you have that attractive character head of that community back you, it's good night, game over. All their people are going to follow you. So you need to make sure, as you're looking at your course or product idea, make sure their communities already gathered that would want it. Make sure the idea you're going to put out in front of them is somewhat radical. Make sure those communities actually have an attractive character. This kind of becomes like your checks and balances. The next thing is you want to find, of all those communities that you gathered, you want to find the ones that are complementary rather than competitive. And here's what this looks like. Is if you try if another freelance course came in that was teaching single moms, or not single moms, mothers at home, right? Or whatever, that want to make money online. And they're like, let me sell your thing. It's like, I have a course for that. I'm not going to let you come into my community and sell that. And so you have to think, okay, who would I actually be complementary with rather than competitive? And so the question I always have my students answer is, who is creating the problem that I solve? So you, for example, with me, it's like, you just like breed these women who want to make money online in a million ways.
Breed them.
It's amazing. It's so awesome. And here I come in with an idea for them to make money online. And so it's this really easy compliment. And then the final one for K is king or queen. It's so awesome if there's like, of this like group of communities, if there actually is like a head honcho. Because if you can find the biggest person, or if there's like a huge stage that you can speak on, then all those communities that you didn't necessarily pick up before, because like the big guy lets you in, then it's And so kind of going through that process, it almost acts as a checks or balance before you launch your course or your information or your brand out into the world, to be like, is there audiences, and will my message match with that? And if you can kind of go through those things, CRACK, LOL, but with a plan, right? Like community, radical, attractive character, complementary, and then king, then you're going to be able to ensure that what you're actually putting out into the world will be accepted and profitable. But for so long, I just looked, was like, this seems like a cool idea. And I would just like, launch it. And it was to no one, with no strategy. I had no idea if people were even asking for this product or wanted it. And once I kind of figured out this sequence of things, it's been really awesome. We just had somebody inside our program go through this whole thing, and she launched it day one and made $36,000 because
that's awesome.
She found a community, she had a radical message, she got the attractive character to buy in, they were complimentary, and they even had a connection to a higher person for King. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, this is really cool checks and balances system.
If you're listening and you're like, I'm just getting started, why are we talking about information products? I want you to go back and re-listen, like literally scrub back in the video or audio and re-listen to this and put on your service provider hat, because so much of what she said is also a way for you to rapidly increase your client, your list of people who are interested, your prospective clients, and grow a service-based business as well. It's the same concept. This is why when people come in the free mama world and they're like, they went from 2 weeks ago before my webinar to never even hearing of a virtual assistant to their main objection being everybody's a virtual assistant. I'm like, no, it's because it's all you see now, because now you know it's a thing and you're swimming in this world. But when you think about how you're going to stand out or niche down, you've got to same look for the crack. What's the thing? So that's so applicable. That was so much value. Let's get serious. And by serious, I mean personal. Okay. We know you can teach amazing things. They can. They can follow you on the internet for all of your amazing value, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Let's talk about what you really wanted to talk about back at Free Mama Retreat. And the fact that we've already said you're engaged. Let's talk about the ex-boyfriend that got you to the husband to be, because we are grateful for him.
We are so grateful. We're grateful for him. We're grateful for the guy in our life. I literally can't wait for you to meet him. You will love him so much.
I'm on my way.
He's literally amazing. But no, I think it was really interesting. So when I became, I was so excited when I discovered the internet, where I was like, crap, you can actually make money on here. And kind of set what this looks like. And that was even later. I remember the first time I made money when I woke up the next day. And I was like, I made money when I was sleeping. It's this like kind of taboo thing, but I was like, oh my gosh, it's working. This is so beautiful. And it just like, again, like fueled this fire in me. And my mom's amazing. She was pregnant for like all the 90s. There's 8 of us, God bless her. She's so cool. And I just always wanted to be like her as well. But I also I'm a millennial, right? I also wanted to like take over the world. And so exactly how her life was, I just like admire and respect it, but I knew I wanted something always a little bit different. And so I started dating this guy. It's like almost annoyingly cute how we met. We like met at this wedding reception. He was a groomsman. I was the DJ, and by DJ, I had a Spotify playlist. Anyway, long story short, we look at each other. Everything falls. We look up. Our eyes match. He's literally like, "You're beautiful," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so attractive." And then, well, next thing you know, we're dating, and I was just like in
smitten.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like I had never experienced that before with someone. So I'm like, it's good night, game over for me. He was amazing and inquisitive. And we've been dating for probably like 8 or 9 months. And then we kind of started talking about getting married. And I was like so thrilled to be having these conversations. I was just so happy for myself. And he was really great. And then as we started to talk, one thing he said to me, he was like, Kathryn, we got like really serious. And he's like, we need to talk to you about something for a while. And I was like, yeah, of course. And at this point, like my career kind of like barely started to get traction. Like I just launched my best-selling book, and I was like about 8 or 9 months in probably to that person asking me for $1,000. So we're feeling confident. We're like making contracts and we're like doing things. And he said to me, he goes, I doubt your ability to mother because of your business aspirations. And like, I think I said this at the free mom thing, but like, it was such a dumb thing to say that you're just like, I'm going to give him a second shot. You're like, maybe he's just like an idiot. Like maybe he just messed up, like, so I was like, I'm sorry, like, would you repeat that? And he said, I doubt your ability to mother because of your business aspirations. And long story short, it just like, I just didn't agree. And in his mind, I couldn't be a good mother if I worked. And that stemmed from a lot of stories about his growing up and things like that. But I, at the end of the day, it was like so painful for somebody that I love to, in my mind, want me to shrink. And long story short, I ended things. I just like, he was like, I can't move forward unless you basically, in my mind, was like, quit who you are. I was like, can you respect me? And it died. And it was brutal, but I think it was brutal less because of the boy and more because all of a sudden I started to question who I was and if what I wanted was actually okay. And if I was okay by me and if I was okay by God. And also, what did it say about me if I didn't want a life just like my mom? Did it mean I loved her less? Or did I not think she was amazing? And I just like, it was like really bad. And I think you can test it. Like, I'm just a lady who loves life. And I was like genuinely depressed and I didn't even know what it was. Like, I was just like, I could not function. And literally my best friend one day was like, Kathryn, like, what is going on? So I was like, I don't know. She's like, well, I'm like, I don't know. I just like, I can't. She's like, I think you're depressed. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I don't know what to do in this situation. And anyway, it was like this like brutal climb back. But I think I remember I remember it'd been a few months and I was like, I cannot function like this anymore. Like, I've got to figure out what's going on. And so I started to get some help and I started to like go really deep into study. And I was like, if I can figure out like, what does it actually mean to be a mother? And what does it actually mean to be an entrepreneur creator? And are those actually at odds with each other? And I think God was really gracious to like, all of a sudden these things start connecting. And through like a ton of study, I learned that the definition of a parent, right? Like the general definition of a parent is to nurture. That's it. Like, just nurture the little humans. And the definition of nurture is so dope. It literally means to enable and provide opportunity. That's what it means. Enable and provide opportunity. So I was like, that's beautiful. It's like so beautiful. And so it's like, okay, well then what's an entrepreneur? And like, as I'm doing, it takes like 2 seconds. I'm like, that's what a freaking entrepreneur is. That's what a creator is. They like enable people to do things they couldn't do before, and they provide opportunity. And I was like, they're literally the same thing. And all of a sudden I was just like, I was like this, like I could breathe finally again, where I was like, oh my gosh, like everything that I do and become as an entrepreneur will only help sharpen and enhance what happens inside the home and vice versa. And when that happened, it was such a blessing, one, because I think there was finally like a logical reason to align what was happening in my soul. I think I just know a lot of free mamas. I have a lot of them on, honestly, I'm grateful for you. I hire free mamas. So just thank you for breeding all of my employees. But like, I think that's a real, I think that's like a very real thing where it's like, I feel this thing inside me, but I can't quite explain it. And I think I finally have this logical thing to make sense of that. And then it also just added, and I'm so grateful for this, like this very sacred layer to making money online. Something that I think can be perceived as really slimy or gross, or I don't know, internet marketing gets a bad rap sometimes, and sometimes appropriately so. But then you meet people like Lauren and you're like, the internet's such a beautiful place. But it really did like add this beautiful layer of sacredness to it. And I'm like just so grateful for that. I think I would have become a lot different person if I hadn't have had that experience. And I think that I would have ended up with a lot different person if I hadn't have had that experience. And so fast forward 6 years. And we meet a boy named Travis, who is this like, he has this like insatiable curiosity, and he's just this like voracious creator. Um and like in like the most beautiful way requires it of himself, and almost and like invites anybody else who's with him to be that way. And I don't think I would have recognized that. I think I maybe would have been intimidated by it almost, had I not been really aligned with the fact that whatever lane I was in, motherhood or entrepreneurship, it was all just the same creation. And then to find that in a Travis or in a you, like, I'm obsessed with you. You just create beautiful things and beautiful people. You guys, your children are so your children are so cute. And I think it really has that. It's been this like breath of fresh air and these glasses of clarity, learning that the name of the game is entrepreneurship, and it isn't even motherhood, it's creation. And actually playing true to that truest version of yourself. And what a beautiful thing to have some place like the internet exist where you can get paid to practice that.
Really you are just such a beautiful human. You used a word that's a word that I actually think is probably the times I've come to you in need in our friendship. It's the word that I think it's like the thing I need when I come to you. And that word was aligned. I think you are one of the most aligned people I know. And when I'm like floundering and I like call you on a Sunday, which is your like sacred, I don't work and do things day, and you still like answer your FaceTime call from me crying and panicked, like while you're at church. This has probably happened on more than one occasion. And what I feel like you always help me do, and I'm wondering if you can help all of our listeners right now, is like, how do you stay so aligned? What is it that you come back to that makes you be that person, not just for me, but a rock for so many of the other people in your life?
Totally. I think there's like two things. The first thing is that I actually had to figure out who I was. And I think that a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like, do you know who you are? And you're like, yeah, I know who I am. And I think people ask me that question too. It's like, yeah, I kind of know. I know what I stand for. I know my morals and values. And I remember I started working with a coach, and she asked me that question, and I was like, yeah, I know who I am. She's like, okay, who are you? And she like asked for it. She like asked for words, and I was like, wait, what? And she's like, give me 3 sentences. And I was like, what? I was like, I don't know how to answer that question. I don't know how to answer that question. And I realized that like maybe I'd done exercises before, or I'd like written in my journal who I was or who I wanted to be. And it's like, and I realized that like I couldn't answer her unless I went to my journal to go see what I had written about who I was. And I was like, that's an SOS. That is like so scary. To like be in a situation where it's like, I can't tell you the words of who I am. And I realized that if I couldn't tell the words, that I couldn't live up to the words. Like I couldn't actually be the person if I didn't know who it was. Or there was always going to be this discretion, or this discrepancy between the two, because there was a lack of intentionality or awareness about it. And so that was the first thing I did. I said, okay, who is Kathryn Jones? And it's so interesting. And we talked about this for a while. Like I have 3 sentences that whenever there is confusion or I'm unsure about how to move forward, it's like the 3 checks I go through. And it's, I'm Kathryn Jones, I'm brave, I'm always learning, and I'm a light to the world. And those 3 things, brave, learning, light to the world, have governed my decisions for the last 3 years since I had that clarity. And it's so awesome, where it's like, you have like a hater online come at you pretty abrasively, and it's like, how am I going to respond? I'm brave, I'm always learning, I'm a light to the world. It really governs your decisions. Or it's like, COVID happened and all of my ads tanked and all my JVs went through and my live event got canceled. And so literally we were hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars went away in 6 days. And it was one of those situations where it's like, well, 1, if we don't do something, we're screwed. And 2, how are we going to move forward? I'm brave, I'm always learning, I'm a light to the world. And I think, I think that those things have been really helpful. It's just like gut checks and helping me to stay aligned. And I think that's the name of the game. It's just like constant calibration. Like how true is that statement today, being brave? And how true is that statement today? And how true is that statement today? So I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing is sometimes you're like, I'm brave. And it's like, okay, I need to handle the situation brave. And it's like, I'm not feeling brave right now. It's like, I cannot be brave. And it's like, I'm brave. And it's like, no, you're not. And it's like, you should be. It's like, I'm dying, right? And it's like all like this back and forth. And I think I find that a lot, where brave one day feels really easy, and then brave the next day is like, am I drowning? Am I gonna die? Am I quitting the internet right now? And I think when there's that discrepancy, I think so often also in these like mantras of like, I'm brave, I'm learning, it's like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And that's not real, right? And so I think the medium that's helped me learn how to align those two things is I stumbled upon this truth that if you want a story to be true, you have to live it. And so the process came when I'm not feeling brave and I wish I were brave. I think, okay, well then what's my current story? My current story is I'm not brave. What's my current story? Now it's like, I'm so scared. And does everybody hate me on the internet? And I feel a huge heap of anxiety and maybe I can't breathe. That's my current story. And then getting really clear on, well, what is it that I want? What do I wish was happening right now? And maybe it's, I wish I had the courage to make this really hard phone call to fire somebody who was an employee and stole my stuff and shouldn't have, and betrayed trust, right? And contract. So it's like, that's just like a sucky situation to be in, right? So you're like, ugh. So it's like, okay, well, that's what I wish. I wish that was just like, NBD, right? And so it's like, okay, cool. Then what story do I need to be true to make that a really easy and almost happy experience for both of us? And maybe it might be as simple as like, I am brave, or I'm a light to the world. And so it's like, okay, well, I have anxiety and I can't breathe and I'm a light to the world. That's not real. It is the craziest thing. Again, if you want a story to be true, live it. If I want that story to be true, I literally think, what's an action I can do in 5 minutes or less that makes that story true? And that's it. Like, that really is the thing. If I'm not feeling brave, it's like, what's a baby thing I can do right now to make that sentence true? And then that brave builds upon brave. And so I think it's this constant game. It's like, are you kidding me? I cried like 4 days ago to my coach because I was feeling very overwhelmed about something. And then yesterday I had a coaching call with her and I literally was like, I don't even know what I need help with, honestly, right now. I'm thriving. I'm like, I don't even know. And I think it's just this constant game of calibration of being who it is that you really are so that you can create in the way that you need to create.
It absolutely is constant calibration. I was talking with one of my coaches a few weeks ago and had a massive breakdown because I'm like, no, like my life was right. Like in August, like we had everything figured out. Everything was perfect. Like business is doing great. Life was doing great. Kids were thriving. COVID, who cares? Like we were fine. And then 2 months later, it was like, everything has dropped. There are no balls in my hands anymore. Like, and it's constant. Like I realized I was on this pursuit of quote unquote, getting it right, but that's a journey that's never done. Like I love that you say the constant recalibration. I love that. Well, I know we're almost out of time, but I want to play by the game here at Free Mama Radio. You are known for design hacking. Now, a lot of free mamas know that in the world of funnels and funnel design, which is a science, not an art, according to you and what you teach, which is awesome. But people may or may not know that design hacking is also about design hacking your life. And Kathryn, I think you've given us a ton of insight into how you teach that and in how you live that for yourself. So I'll let you take this with whichever route you want to go, but we're looking for 3 actionable tips for anybody who's wanting to get started in the world of design hacking. What 3 things can they do today?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, design hacking, the definition is just how do you present story that converts? So how do you present information in a way that's going to make you money, or it's going to change you from one thing to another? And so I think if we want to play in the online realm, right? I think most people coming here are looking for that. It's like, okay, what are our top 3 things? How do we do this? And so I think if you look at the definition, a story that converts, you need 2 things. You need a story, and then the next thing you need it to do is actually convert. And it's really interesting. The first thing that I would have you do is to actually do an audit of, because I think like probably one of the biggest things that people ask you is like, how do I find clients? Is that right?
Yeah.
Like, how do I find
Yeah. Or how do I start? How do I find clients?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Which is such an actually beautiful question. Like the fact that
It's a great question.
it's like you made it onto the track. You're at the starting line. Most people don't even put on cleats. So like, I think if you're feeling overwhelmed by that question, just realize it's actually a really huge deal. And so you're on the track. It's like, hey, how do I start? How do I find clients? The first thing that you have to realize is that you're not going to make money if you never ask people to pay you money. And so I would do an audit. The first thing I do is do an audit of how many times, and especially if you're struggling, like I can't find clients, how many times in the last month have you asked people to give you money? How many offers have you actually made, right? That's the first thing. That way you have a starting point, right? You have like an actual starting point. I guarantee you double that number, great things are going to happen for you. But we're just going to start with that. The next thing, the easiest way to sell something is to have your story become your customer's story. Because if your story becomes their story, then your solution becomes their solution. So in looking like how many people did I ask for money, the next thing we want to do is, okay, can I start actually presenting a story that would help my story to become theirs? And so thinking about, okay, if there are a million virtual assistants, how can I tell my story in a way that helps people to realize that I'm actually the best person for them? And you can come talk to me later and we can talk about how to craft that. But people will respond to stories with money because you're not selling. You're helping your story to become theirs. And then the process becomes step 3. How can you tell a story every single day in a way to almost disguise the sell, right? So number 1, do an audit of where you're at. Number 2, figure out almost what your origin story is. If somebody's like, hey, like, how'd you get started on the internet? Like you just told me, right? It's like, hey, what are you doing on the internet? What are you doing? You have a beautiful story to tell. And number 3 becomes a rinse and repeat. If you literally start telling stories every single day for 30 days, you post on Facebook and Instagram every day story 30 days in a row with an actual call to action at the end, it's going to be a really beautiful thing for you.
I love that. Okay, one final question before we wrap up. You know all about the Free Mama community. The mission.
I love them so much. I can't tell you how many. I've cried with you guys on Sunday. You've been so nice to just let me in when I wasn't officially a mom, and I love you so much for it.
I'm really looking forward to our ginormous virtual baby shower or something in the future. We should probably do like a wedding shower too. That'd be fun. Before we get to that though, you know what the Free Mama is all about. You're all up in here, but the mission of the Free Mama, as a reminder, is to make sure that no mother has to choose between family and financial stability. We are not separating motherhood and entrepreneurship. We are the same. Knowing that and knowing so many of the members of this beautiful community, what is one last piece of advice that you would share with them? Maybe something that you haven't already been able to touch on today.
When Travis and I first started talking about getting married and when we would want to have kids and what that looked like, I actually started to get stressed because I was like, oh my, like it's real. Like, it's like, oh my gosh. It's like, how the heck am I going to lead?
We've arrived.
A multi-million-dollar company with a child. Like, all of a sudden I was like, crap. And I was like, oh, I'm not ready. But then I'm like, the eggs are dying. We got to get going on it. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I'm like, ah. And so I'm like panicking. I'm in my garage working out and I'm just like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? What's this going to look like? And all these different things. And he's an entrepreneur as well. And he's actually really cool. Like the whole reason he was an entrepreneur is the same. He's like, I want to be home to raise my kids, which is like so beautiful. But also it's like, crap, as a kid, you know, it's like, oh my gosh. And I know I love working. And so it's like, I'm gratefully putting in if I want to, it's like, it's fun for me. If I have time, I love to work. And so how are we going to do this and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like kind of stressing out about this. And I'm like doing burpees. And I'm like, God, I'm in my garage. And I'm just thinking about this. And all of a sudden I had this like really beautiful image pop into my head of my coach that I had seen on Instagram, like maybe even a year prior. And it was a picture of her building a product with a baby strapped to her back. And she was building with her baby. Like her baby was literally with her. And I just remember thinking, and it actually became this like huge source of study and something that I asked people a lot where it was like, oh my gosh, like even in my mind, I for a second forgot that I was separating them. And it's like, what? Like all of a sudden it became, and again, I'm like saying this knowing I'm about to get completely rocked. And so like, I'm ready for this, but I think what a beautiful concept to let them build with you. And like, how cool is that you brought your kids on a cruise where they got to see mom with all her work friends, to see what she built. Like mom built this experience. That is so cool. Or when you brought your kids to your Free Mama event, like they got to see and they were building with you. And I think for those that are seeking to not choose, again, I'm like coming at this with knowing I'm about to get rocked, but I think that's a really beautiful concept. And in the women I admire most, you being one of them, I've literally cried at you because of this and how much I adore you as a mother. And I think that's one of the things I adore most about you is you let them be a part of what you're building. You never box them out. It's really beautiful.
Amazing advice. Thank you. We can't all wait to watch you and your journey, and we'll be here with all the unsolicited parenting advice when you're ready.
And listen, it's not, I that is not advice at all because I don't have any experience in it, but pointing out, I think what I've seen you and a lot of other amazing women. Melissa Duran is another one, another free mama. Erin Avento is another one. Jordan Taylor is another one. Emma Kloss is another one. Just like these extraordinary mothers who have their kiddos on our Zoom calls every day. It's so beautiful. And I'm like really grateful to be a witness of it. So not my advice, just patterns I see in dope mothers that I hope to emulate one day.
You are amazing. Kathryn, thank you so much for coming on Free Mama Radio today. We are so forever grateful for you. How can people connect with you if they want to learn more about the world of design hacking?
Miss Kathryn Jones on Instagram.
Awesome. We'll put links to all her websites. I know you got a Facebook group, all the things. We'll put those in the show notes so you guys can always head to freemamaradio.com to get that information.